All right. We're live. It's Wednesday night. It's 8:30 instead of 8. It's the weirdest thing. Like, usually a lot of times we start these live streams at 8 o'clock. And that's, we used to do it at 8:30 all the time and then moved it back to 8 o'clock and pretty consistent. I mean, I think if we have a standard starting time, it's 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. That's when we do it. Occasionally, like a night like tonight, I have something going on, got to move it to 8:30, bounce it back and forth, whatever. But it's funny because, like, even when we do it at 8 o'clock, I don't know if it's because I did these podcasts, these live streams at 8:30 so for so long. But like we see the numbers jump. All of a sudden, the viewer count goes up at 8:30, even when we started at 8 o'clock. It's like, where were you guys for the first half hour? You missed out on everything there. So I'm assuming this will be a better attended live stream here this evening. The Panther-Lair Show here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, where we get together for an hour every Wednesday night to talk a little Pitt sports. Jim Hammett from Panther-Lair.com will join us in a moment. We take your comments and your questions. Jim and I talk about stuff for a while. You comment and question, and we talk about your comments and questions for a little while. People have already put some comments in, starting to get some conversation topics going there. And that's what's fun is, we'll say stuff and you'll respond to it and react to it. And then you guys have stuff and we read it and respond and react to that. And so it's a good time. We always enjoy doing these live streams, have a good time with it. And I hope you enjoyed as well. Of course, like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com to never miss any of the Pitt video content. And then check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com. Pittsburgh.rivals.com is the most comprehensive source of Pitt sports news on the internet, football, basketball, and recruiting. You find it all at Panther-Lair.com and message boards to talk to other Pitt fans all day, every day. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all of the Pitt conversation. And then we have our conversations here on Wednesday night. So let's bring in our good friend Jim Hammett. Get our stage set up the way we like it. We've got a little feedback there.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I got a new computer the other day, so this is the maiden voyage.
Interesting.
Yeah,
there was a little bit of feedback initially, but now it seems like it got under control. Did you get another Mac, or what'd you get?
Another Mac. The other one just wasn't really holding a charge, so it was kind of
okay.
It made it through 6 football seasons and 6 basketball seasons. It was a trooper.
That's a long time for a laptop. I mean, I think Macs tend to last a little bit longer, but yeah, that's putting in some hours there on the old Mac. The battery, it's like it runs so well, right? It keeps working, but just the battery it's like that planned obsolescence thing of like, yep, at 6 years the battery's just never going to hold on. If you keep it plugged in, like, can you survive like that? Will it stay on, or will you?
There's sometimes you need to walk in the other room and it's just like it kind of stinks being held to a charger. So it was time for a new one.
You keep it as a backup, or did you get rid of it?
I have it. Yeah, it's in the drawer just in case.
Yeah,
you never know.
Yeah. Well, when I got this, I got a Mac. I don't know, a couple of years ago. I switched, and I I had been on a whatever this was, Acer or some kind of PC or something, but I still keep that because there's like a handful of things I can only do on there. Like the printer we have doesn't play nice with the Mac, so I have to keep. It sits right next to me here, so. I have to keep this in case I want to print something, that I can plug the Asus into the printer, or, to use PowerPoint, like the scholarship board we have on Panther-Lair.com on the Between Fifth and Forbes message board is it's a PowerPoint that I edit it in PowerPoint and then save it as a PDF. And so I still use the old PC for that. Although I think I might be able to edit PowerPoint on a Mac.
It might just be like something else or whatever.
Some kind of light PowerPoint. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But, well, good luck. Have you found any new bells and whistles, or is it pretty much just the same old thing, just goes faster?
It's weird now because you just kind of like sign into your like stuff. Like, so like like all my documents were there, all my photos, like my text messages come to this thing. Like all you have to do is sign in. It's just like, it's the same computer. So it's kind of cool.
Right. No, nice. Let me see here. Voodoo IPA wants to know who won the baseball game, because the reason we had to push tonight's podcast back a half hour is because my 10U baseball team, 3rd and 4th graders, had a game tonight, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. So that was why we were a little delayed. and I mentioned this on the morning Pitt. So we actually did win. We got our first win of the season in our 4th game. So we're 1-3 now, but it was playing against like kids from the same elementary school. So it was like a rivalry game.
Big game.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, usually we play kids from other elementary schools. Nobody cares. We don't know anybody, but this was all like they all know each other. Like the smack talk tomorrow in the halls of that elementary school is going to be epic. We insisted on good sportsmanship tonight, but we can't control what they do once they get back to school. And I can only imagine they're going to have some words. And so I 3rd and 4th graders can be vicious. So it'll be interesting, but we got the win. So we're excited about that. We won 8-6, but we kind of stole a run because we advanced on a steal overthrow. And I don't think we were supposed to, but we still would have won 7-6, even if we didn't get that run. But nevertheless, that's why we're late. And that's what happened tonight. You, have any sports interests tonight?
I mean, I'll watch the Knicks game when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
It's
that time of
year. Not 4th grade baseball, but
no, 3rd and 4th grade baseball.
3rd and 4th.
And we actually play Saturday night, an 8:00 game, a primetime game, the same night Paul Skeens is making his debut for the Pirates. So that's going to cut into the attendance at PNC Park. Let me tell you.
The thing is we have a good friend now that is a Pirates beat writer, and he led me to believe that this was going to happen Friday. I can't go Saturday. I was all primed to go Friday. So what's the point of knowing Noah Hiles if he can't help you out like this?
Noah, that's I don't know if you should have thrown him under the bus like that. I mean, Noah's got a reputation. Did he report that, or was that like
that was off the record?
Off the record, yeah. Well, never trust reporters, the things that they tell you, like in a bar or on a text message or something like that.
Yeah,
that's what I say. But all right, let's get a couple questions before we jump into conversation topics here. Josh Newark wants to know, or Josh Newark has 2 NIL questions. One, why doesn't Pitt require Alliance 412 donations to acquire season tickets? And don't tell me it's an NCAA violation because they're powerless. We'll answer question number 1 first, and I would say because it's an NCAA violation. Like schools can't actively collect the NIL money. Actually, I mean, technically they probably could, but they can't pay it out. You know what I mean? Like you could be like, you have to donate, or I guess they wouldn't be collecting the money here. Well, they kind of would be. Like, how would that work? Would you have to send like proof of a donation to Alliance 412?
Yeah, that's I don't know. I mean, just because as long as we're under these current circumstances, like Alliance 412 has to be around. Like they're like a designated middleman forever. So I don't know. I don't know how you would just, because I know like if you have like good season tickets, like you have to donate so much to Pitt. Like that's like a requirement. Like not if you sit in the bleachers, but if you sit in the club seats, you have to give, I don't know, a few $100s per seat, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, there's that required donation. So I wonder, like, I mean, would Pitt, like I wonder, Josh, would you suggest that Pitt should forego its required donation and require an Alliance 412 donation instead? Or would you suggest that you require an Alliance 412 donation in addition to the already, the donation you're already forcing people to make? I don't know if that's the move either. Now, I remember like last year, I think Ole Miss had like a month where they couldn't actually funnel you to their collective, but they like put like a moratorium or something on taking donations as an athletic department. They're like, for like the month of September or whatever it was, we are taking no donations. We will not accept any. And I forget if they explicitly said it or if it was just understood of like, instead of donating to the athletic department during this month, make all your donations to Alliance 412.
That's not a bad idea.
So I wonder if Pitt would ever, if you can't actually funnel the money yourself, would you say, okay, this year there are no donation requirements for season tickets, but we expect you to donate that money instead to Alliance 412. You know what I mean? Find a more a better way to phrase it than that. I wonder what the number actually is. Like, I wonder how much Pitt would actually lose. I have no idea what the donations are or what the level is. I feel like there's probably varying levels. There's probably some that are like $1,500 per seat or something donation. I mean, I would imagine it goes up that high. And so probably a decent chunk of change Pitt would be giving up. But if it all went to Alliance 412, that could be a real boost. I don't know. all these like stupid ways of trying to get around it. You know what I mean? Like it's all these stupid ways of trying to get around the obvious of just paying the players. But what if you were, if you were Pat Bostic or Heather Lyke or one of these people, like, would you do something like that? I mean, how much would you be willing to sacrifice to get more money to Alliance 412?
I mean, I think I would a lot. I mean, I like in theory, like I like Josh's idea, and like it's a small price to pay up front, like, but if you can get a better team, then you're selling more seats anyway. So it's kind of like you're setting the table for yourself. So I don't know. I mean, this whole thing's stupid. Like we're talking in circles, and we're going to talk in circles until this whole thing gets fixed. So
right.
I don't know the answer, but I mean, I think it would be smart to like try something like what Ole Miss did. Like, all right, like it's closed. If you have all this money you want to give and support Pitt, there's another way to do it. Wink, wink.
Right. But then like there's also something to be said, and maybe this is the most important point overall of like what you really need is the big donors. You know what I mean? You need the big gifts, and you can chip away with all the $19.76 donations that you won. You can chip away, even if you get somebody to give you $1,500 for a year or something. You ultimately need somebody who's going to write a check for $100,000. You know, you need somebody who's going to write a check for $250,000. You need somebody who's going to write that big check, $1 million donation, and that's where you're actually going to be competitive. And I understand they want to. Alliance 412 wants that. They want the whales, the big donors. But, and I guess you want to have a balance of, the big donors and then, cultivate as many smaller donations because every little bit helps. But all the effort has to be on the big money. I mean, that's where it really is going to get done. And I don't know if Pitt either doesn't have enough of them. They're not, the ones they have are not committed to NIL, or they're just not cultivating them well. I don't know where it's not happening, but it's not happening. I don't think Pitt's NIL apparatus is nearly as effective as it needs to be to remain competitive.
No, I agree. And I mean, I think, just in light of this offseason, I think we saw that. I mean, I think they were at the table for certain players in both sports, and I don't know if they could pull it off. And I think that's obviously indicative of where they stand in NIL. So I don't know the correct answer, but I mean, other than just like having like 10 Chris Pickles is kind of what they need.
Right. Exactly. I mean, they got outbid. Pitt football got outbid for multiple starters who schools were willing to spend more than Pitt was just to get them to come in and be depth guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like here's a guy, Pitt, this is your starter. We're going to pay him more to be a depth player, to be a reserve, and he's going to play, but he's going to come off the bench for us, and we're willing to pay him more than you're willing to pay him as a starter. And maybe it's not willing, maybe it's able, because I think they're willing to do whatever they can, but they're just limited in what they can do. And I think you look at Solomon DeShields going to Texas A&M. I don't think he's going to start at Texas A&M, and I don't think A&M brought him in intending to have him start. They wanted good depth. They wanted to get a little deeper out at linebacker. And they paid him more than Pitt was able to pay him. I mean, people always say like, oh, there's no way Pitt can compete in this. I mean, like when you hear stories like that, it's like, wow, yeah, it is really tough to compete because it doesn't feel viable or sustainable. But we say this all the time. The second part of Josh's question, does Alliance 412 need to follow Michigan's hire today and hire an NFL expert to head Alliance 412, say a Louis Riddick type? I didn't see who did you see what Michigan did today?
I didn't actually.
All right. Let me see. Dusty May. No, that's not it.
He's the basketball coach.
Yeah, I just looked up Michigan collective hire.
Did they hire like a general manager type, like someone?
Probably something like that. So, I mean, Alliance 412 has Doug Whaley, contributing in some respects. I mean, I don't think it's quite as official as. I'm really kind of curious now about this. Michigan Collective. I'm Googling. No. That's not it. Goodness. Come on, people. Just tell me what I want. Why is Twitter not helping me here? Who knows? Josh might have already offered a little bit of a elaboration. He didn't. I'm sure we'll get the context from Josh shortly. But I mean, So they've got Doug Whaley working with them in some capacity. I don't know if they've officially called him a general manager. It's been interesting to see how schools themselves, not just the collectives, but schools have adjusted and changed, bringing in guys to be effectively a personnel director and not in the way it used to be, but an actual personnel director on an NFL style model.
They did hire a general manager.
Okay. For the collective or at the university?
For their NIL. Therese Whitehead is now the general manager for Michigan's NIL.
Okay. So he's not a Michigan employee. He's hired by, he works for the collective. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, there's schools, I think it was Texas Tech, moved in that direction of assistant coaches weren't offering guys anymore. The evaluations were being done by the evaluations were being done by a general manager who then, extends the offers, and the coaches are involved in recruiting, but all the personnel decisions are made by this other department, which is a pretty drastic change and difference from what it's been, but it's more of an NFL type of model. Yeah, college sports will probably go that way as well. Does it make sense for Alliance 412 to make a hire like that? Yes, depending on where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Like, if any money would go to pay someone who's working for Alliance 412 money that would be otherwise diverted to the players, then you're making a mistake. Now, if Chris Bickle is privately funding salaries for like 3 people or however many people work for Alliance 412, if he's privately funding those separate from the NIL donations, well, then okay. But you need to make sure the priority is always in the right place, which is getting the money to the players, which is probably another reason the schools just need to ultimately take it over anyway, right? So that you don't have this conflict of interest of like, oh, here's the guy who leads the NIL collective. He donates all the money. He pays all these people to work here, and he donates money to the. I mean, it's, the schools just need to take it over, and then, I think you cut out some of that uncertainty. But that's what the current system is. I don't know. Have you seen other schools that have that kind of general manager model? I feel like I've seen it, but I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know any like specifics. I mean, I thought like Whaley was kind of probably similar to what other schools have, like like helping out. I don't know an official title,
right?
And I don't,
yeah. And he sort of lays low. I think he's still involved, but I haven't really seen anything recently. TRR on the transfer and NIL front says DeMonte Diggs decommits from Cal. Is he a viable option for Pitt? Whatever happened to recruiting the junior college ranks? Diggs is from, where's he from? McKeesport?
Yeah.
Where he went? Yeah. And went to Youngstown State, went in the transfer portal, committed to Cal, decommitted yesterday or today. The days all run together for me. I mean, I think they offered him.
They did.
And he would make sense, but I haven't gotten any real indication of what they're doing there. It's just feeling more and more like the 15 defensive linemen they have are going to be the guys they go into the season with. And I know fans have said, like, well, how could they possibly do that? Why wouldn't they get more guys? I mean, if they have 15 defensive linemen right now, 20% of them are transfers. So, I mean, they tried. They added 3 guys in December when they thought they were going to have Dayon Hayes back. They've tried. They've worked on some guys this spring. It's just and maybe they'll find another depth guy. It's just feeling more and more like what they have is probably what they're going to roll with. I mean, is that how it feels to you?
Yeah, I think I wrote that in. That was like my one prediction for the 3-2-1 column last week. It's like they're done. Like I think this is the roster. They might add someone else, but they're at 85. I mean, they could probably make a space or two and make it work. I mean, I think Diggs makes sense, but it's interesting that he committed to Cal, decommitted. So that tells me that there's one school that has told him you should decommit from Cal. Maybe Pitt is that school. I doubt it. Possibly, but I'm guessing there is a school that has already inquired and kind of made that decision for him. And the thing with junior college is like, I don't know. I mean, like it's not really. It's kind of more of like a Southwest West Coast thing. There's just not a ton of junior colleges in this area. I mean, what, like Lackawanna, like that's like the only one where. So I don't know.
And there's weird academic stuff. I feel like you don't see a ton of JUCO guys in the ACC at all.
It's like ACC, Big Ten do not do junior college.
Whereas SEC, you see more of it there. Obviously Kansas State, particularly Kansas State makes a living off. I mean, Bill Snyder for years has made a living off of junior college guys. But you're right, down through Southwest. And I mean, part of it is that's where the schools are. Part of it, I just think there are challenges with getting guys in from the junior college ranks. And so, I mean, we could go on to Rivals and look at the JUCO rankings. I mean, I assume we still do those. And I mean, I think you're going to find most of them are not, it doesn't.
I'm trying to think.
It's not even worth looking it up, but I mean, a little bit here and there, but for the most part, you just don't see it throughout the ACC. And I think that that's part of the reason that Pitt really. I mean, who was the last JUCO guy they got?
I was just thinking about like Carter Johnson was one.
Yeah. I mean, technically, he came from a junior college. Yeah, and Daniel Marega, the tight end.
What was
2020 was JUCO.
Defensive lineman. He was like
Cam Carter went to Penn State, and then Last Chance U. Yeah. So I mean, but that goes back to like 2017 or 18 or something like that, and we've come up with like 3 guys, and before that, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like there's just not a lot.
Raphael Rouge-Loops, maybe.
Was he in a JUCO?
Rah-Rah?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but I mean, like we're digging here, and
right,
we came up with 4 in like the past 7 football seasons.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it's not like it's just a Pat Narduzzi thing. I mean, I think even Dave Wanstead didn't really get JUCOs all that often. It's just not. It's just not a primary source of players for Pitt. And I mean, I remember people used to like say it a lot on the basketball side, like, man, they just need to go get a JUCO center. And like every time somebody would bring this up, I'd be like, okay, let's look at the JUCO centers who are available. There's like 3 who are even somewhat decent, and they're all going to like Kansas, North Carolina or UConn or someplace like they're not going to Pitt. The JUCO center you're going to get is like, Rafael Maya, or who was the guy somewhat recently who was not Ontario Let, but he was like mentored by Ontario Let. He was like a big center. He was like a DJ Burns type of like
Roselle Nix.
Is that yes? Yeah, he was a JUCO guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's what you're going to, that's what you're going to get.
Summer League legend.
Yes, one of many. I think Ontario Let might have been a JUCO guy too. But I mean, like you're just not going. It's not the wealth of available talent that I think fans often make it out to be. Like, oh, go to the JUCO ranks, you'll get that guy. Well, there aren't really that many guys, and most of them aren't going to your school, and you can't get most of them in to your school anyway. And so I think that's why the numbers, so whatever happened to it, it was never really a priority, I think, and it was never really all that effective. William Richter wants to know, are we hearing any chatter with any players that Pitt is looking at for basketball? It's the wait and see right now to see what emerges. Obviously, Adu Thiero off the board since we last met, Jim, since we last spoke. And I think when you're in this wait and see period to sort of see who kind of pops out as a legitimate target, it sort of feels like the staff is like resetting the board. I think they maintained contact with guys even when they were pursuing Thiero. It was just a matter of turning up the recruitment in, as he started slipping away. And so I don't have any names off the top of my head. I don't know if you do. Is there anybody in particular you're keeping an eye on or watching out for?
I mean, I wonder a little bit about Miles Kelly from Georgia Tech. I mean, he's a, 6'6" shooter. I don't think he's quite like Thiero, like a power forward. He'd probably be more on the perimeter, but I think he would give them, another option to score. And he's a pretty good player coming from, in the same conference. So I don't know how, serious that is. I mean, that's kind of some chatter. I mean, I just kind of like glanced over like the transfer portal rankings or whatever. And I don't know, like, I doubt it, but like Jameer Watkins from Florida State seems great, but like, I don't know how viable like that is for Pitt, but right. I don't know. There's still like a lot of really good players out there. And you would have to think at some point spaces are filling up other places. So, I mean, we'll see what comes up. I mean, like you said, they've had lines in the water. It was just whenever it came down to it. I mean, they felt really comfortable or confident in Thiero, and I mean, we saw I think right after the visit, like they thought they were getting them. Like I think that was kind of the sentiment. So whenever you're that far along, everything else gets paused. So I think they're kind of circling back and kind of figuring things out, but we don't really have a ton of names just yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I Kelly's interesting. I mean, I think he could be a 3. You know what I mean? He could potentially be your 3 who plays behind Zach Austin or splits minutes there with him. I think he'd be an interesting one to keep an eye on. I feel like they can be. I think fans want them to get a 4, right? Fans want them to get a starting power forward, probably Siobhan Troutman, if they could like clone him and make him like 20 years younger than he actually is. That's what they want. I don't think that's really the priority for the staff. I think they'd like to get somebody to play at that position. I think they still view it as more of a perimeter wing position anyway. So I don't think they're looking for that guy who's going to play in the post all that much. But I think I also think they are pretty firmly in like best player available mode, like whatever they can find that they can get. I mean, I don't think a guard makes sense, like a 1 or a 2. I don't think they need that. I don't think they're really going to get anybody who's going to come in because they're going to be like, wait, you have Jalen Ish and Damian Dunn plus this 4-star freshman coming in. No thanks, coach. I don't really see how I'm going to fit in here. Yeah. But like a wing, somebody could play at the 3 or the 4. I mean, absolutely, there's opportunity there. There's minutes there. I don't know. Nobody should be scared off by Zach Austin, Guillermo, and Jorge. You know what I mean? And that's the rotation right now at the 3 and the 4, unless Marlon Barnes, takes a giant leap or, do we ever settle on how to pronounce Amdi's name? Amdi Najai?
I'm just going with Amdi until
Amdi. Okay, but we're doing Amdi, not Amdi or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like when I like type it out in my head, that's what I'm thinking. So I don't know until Pliz tells us that's what we're going with.
Gotcha. Well, I think he's like a 4, so I mean maybe he's an option there, but I don't think they're going to be in position to rely on him this season. So they want to get a 4, but I think they want to take whatever they can get, like the best player they can find, and it might be like a Miles Kelly, somebody who can fit in as a 3. That seems like the most likely area, right? Is that what you would target if you were them? Like probably like a 3-4, some kind of wing player.
I think all along that's kind of, that like whenever like the portal first opened, like those were all the guys they targeted. And like we had like a big spreadsheet going of like all these guys they reach out to. It's completely empty now. Like everyone has committed, but like early on, it was a lot of those 6'7", 6'6" guys, guys that kind of look like Blake Hinson. They could step out and shoot, bigger, can rebound a little bit. I mean, like that's who they targeted. So I don't know. I mean, it's harder as it goes on because like, everything ramps up so quickly. Like last year that they got Austin and Leggett, like boom, boom. Then like kind of same thing with Corin and Dunn this year. It's like, they found their 2 guys right away, but like to find that 3rd guy, that could be a little bit, it could take a little bit longer. I mean, they thought it was Thiero. We thought it was Thiero. Obviously Thiero decided Arkansas was his best choice.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about that and why that happened, and the whole. It's just funny, and like I've said it a million times. It's just funny. Like you went into the portal to get away from this coach, to play in a different system than what this coach does, to get a better opportunity than what this coach has been providing you, and now you're leaving the portal to go play for that coach again. It's fine. It's the oldest motivation in the world. Just don't pretend like it's anything else, right? Like don't pretend like this is the best opportunity or he's going to use you the way you want to be used. Like, just say it, right? Like if you're Deion Hayes, just say why you're transferring. If you're with Thiero, just say why you're going to that school. I do you think there would be a big backlash if like a Thiero came out tomorrow and was like, well, I came to Arkansas because they gave me the best NIL package, and I may or may not get used the way I want to be used and play the way I want to play on the floor, but they gave me the best offer, and so that's what I went with. How much backlash would there be if he said that tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, we're probably going to get to a point wherever like it's just going to be like commonplace for recruits and players to say that. I mean, because like whenever I still do like interviews with high school kids, like I don't broach that topic because it's like they're 17. Like, what do they know about NIL yet? So like, I'm not like talking to them about it, but like, I don't know, as we start talking to like these guys in the portal, I mean, I think it's going to be more out in the open. I mean, it is out in the open. So why not just talk about it? Let's start talking in real numbers. I would love to start talking in real numbers. It's kind of these hypotheticals. It's funny whenever like I saw someone on Twitter making fun of like, oh, like we were going to get this guy, but this school offered $1 million. that's like the school that lost out is saying that. You know what I mean? It's like
Mhm.
everyone's trying to make it seem like, well, they spent all this money, but we were willing to go this far, but we couldn't go this far. Like
Yep.
it's just dumb that we're talking in hypotheticals. Like let's just lay it out there. Like, okay, Thiero signed for 750,000 or whatever it is. Like, let's just start talking in those terms.
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell the truth. Transparency. I mean, if there was transparency and we could see what the offers were and everybody knew what the deals were, I mean, it'd be a lot easier and be a lot more, yeah, we wouldn't, you wouldn't have to beat around the bush like this. You wouldn't have to pretend that it's something that it's not. Real quick, I did finally find the, oh, never mind.
The Michigan
Good
thing?
Lord. No, the, Rivals junior college ranks, but it's
Oh,
from
they still
2000.
exist. Oh.
It's from 2017. Good God. Wait, maybe the JC Gridiron, who I think runs our JUCO coverage. Yeah, they're a little bit better. So JC Gridiron's top 100 of JUCO players. No, that's not even it. Good Lord, what a mess. What? Anyway, it lined up with what we said. There were a bunch of SEC schools, and it was very few. Like Miami would get one or two JUCO guys, but it was very few, few and far between. Doug Meckler says if Bub Carrington does not get drafted in the NBA draft and does not sign a contract, can he come back to play at Pitt? No, there's like a withdrawal deadline, right? Like you're either in or you're out, and you have to withdraw by that date, or else you are in and your eligibility is done. But I mean, that's not. He's done. He's going. There's no possibility of return, right? I mean,
yeah, he's gone. That's what it is, and
yep,
he's gonna get drafted.
Yep. Voodoo IPA says the Pirates game is at 4:05. So there we go. I can watch the Pirates game with Paul Skeens and then have my baseball game at night. Does that change anything for you? You said you thought it was Friday, and that worked. Does Saturday afternoon work any better? Or?
No, I'm going to a wedding. It's just, it's over.
That's no chance. Byron Fleck wants to know, is the quality of the Pitt football team players today, May 8th, 2024, better, the same, or worse than the 2023 season-ending team? Why or why not? I mean, that's a big question, right? You and I were just talking about position groups. There are 10 position groups on offense and defense, plus the special teams. To just say blanket yes or blank, I would have to go position by position and say which one's a net positive or net negative. So, like, quality of football. Let's okay. Quarterback, positive, negative, or neutral. Right now, compared to where it was at the end of the season.
I guess positive.
I think so, just by a little bit, just by removing Phil Dragovic. Although he had already kind of been removed by the end of the season.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't think that roster last year was all that bad. It just came down to like the quarterback play was atrocious.
Right.
That's kind of what it was. Like,
right.
It's very similar teams. It's just
because I mean, like, running back is a neutral, right? I mean,
it's not much has changed.
Wide receiver depends on how much you value Bub means.
Yeah, it's a matter of where you think Bub is and what you think Kenny Johnson can be. I don't know. I mean, I think that's kind of the trade-off, but do they function better in this offense? I don't know.
Bub played really well at the end of last year. I'm going to go with net negative on that one. Because I mean, Kenny Johnson had like 120 receiving yards last year, and Bub Means over the final 8 games was on pace for like 960. Like, I can't take the guy with 100 yards in the whole season over the guy who, was on pace for almost 1,000-yard season. I have to go a negative on wide receiver. You disagree with that, or?
No, I mean, I can get behind that.
Tight end, it's basically Jake Overman versus Carter Johnson. Neutral. Yeah. O-line.
Well, the thing is, like,
season's end, Mac and Salvez was not part of it, so you can't count him.
Yeah, and it's kind of not that different because Cradle was hurt at the end too, right? Like, they were playing Terrence Moore at center, and
yeah.
I don't think Cradle played that Duke game. I could be wrong, but
so it's basically just bringing in Lyndon Cooper. Like, Lyndon Cooper, and Zbovic was hurt, wasn't he?
Yeah,
he missed a lot of time. So it's Lyndon Cooper I guess he makes them better.
You get
positive.
Well, you get Ryan Jacoby back, who was supposed to be a starter last year,
right? And I would say Bear will be better now than he was last year. I mean,
would think BJ
reasonable
Williams.
progression. All right, I'll give that a net positive. Sure.
I think so too.
Feeling very giving. I don't know what we decided on quarterback, but I'll give that a net positive. Defensive end, that's a net negative.
Yeah, it's a negative.
Defensive tackle, I don't think they were very good last year anyway.
Yeah, that's.
I don't think they're going to be very good this year, but I don't think they were any good last year. I guess it's DeAndre Jules, who started 6 friggin' games.
And he had some good games and some games where he was kind of invisible. Like
right.
he came out hot. I think like they talked about him all camp, and like he made like the first play of the season.
That's right.
Like,
he had a sack in the opener.
Yeah, he ran over someone from Wofford.
Yeah, that's right.
We're like, holy crap, they were right.
And then
just I'm done. I was done with like the Green, Bentley, Danielson, like them faking injuries like every couple plays. Like I was kind of done with that trio. Like I liked them all. Like whatever. But I'm interested to see some new blood there.
So is this neutral?
I think it might be neutral because that group was bad.
Okay. Linebacker. I'm really bullish on this group, but you take Solomon Shields out. I think it's got to be negative. I think, but only like slightly. You know what I mean? I think only slightly. I can't call it. I can't call it neutral. I don't think. Would you call it neutral?
Maybe. I mean, that position group, like these 3 most recent recruiting classes, just like the stacks and stacks. It's the most talented like linebacker group. Like projected, I don't know if it'll turn out that be like in a long time on paper at Pitt, probably since Narduzzi's been here. Like that's the best linebacker room he's probably had with or without the Shields. I mean, I still think there's a lot of upside there.
Okay, so
I think it's neutral because I'm positive.
Now I'm good with that. Yeah. Corner has to be a negative, right? I mean, you lose all those guys. But I think safety might be a positive just with the emergence of Jesse Anderson and Cruz Brookins this spring. You have all the other guys back, so I would give a positive on that. So we've got neutrals for running back, tight end. What was this one? D tackle, linebacker. So that's 4 neutrals. We got minuses for wide receiver, defensive end, and corner. So that's 3 minuses, and then 2 improvements: O-line and safety. Yikes!
And quarterback.
Oh, so we have to decide on quarterback.
I guess it's your logic of just Phil's gone, so it's better. I don't.
But by the end of the season, he was already gone. He was a tight end.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. The best quarterback play they had was probably the last 2 games of the season.
Right. So Nate Arnell is a positive. Is Eli Holstein a positive, or I guess Christian Baer?
I don't know yet. I don't think anyone knows yet.
Yeah.
I mean, like at least redshirt freshman Eli Holstein. I mean, there's hope. He's going to be the starting quarterback at this program eventually, I think. But like for this upcoming season, as redshirt freshman Eli Holstein better than redshirt sophomore Christian Baer? I don't know yet.
Because I mean that's a. I mean, if we give that a net positive, then that's like 3 positive, 3 negative, and 4 neutral, which more or less balances out, like you said, to being not that different. You know what I mean? From one year to the next. Then again, if we call it a neutral, it's 5 neutrals, 3 negatives, and 2 positives. So it's largely, majority neutral. I guess either way, it's coming down to like, there's a couple positions where they're probably going to be a little bit better and a couple of positions where they're probably going to be a little bit worse. But overall, not that big of a change. And it's, like you said, it's really just about the quarterback play. Like if the quarterback sucks again, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to have a rough season again. If the quarterback doesn't suck again, then they could actually be
at least bounce back.
Better than last year. Right. Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, so
I
don't know.
Bowl game. I don't know.
Do we have a final answer then for Byron Fleck? Is the quality of the Pitt football team players today, May 8th, 2024, better, the same, or worse than the 2023 season-ending team?
I think we kind of came out with about the same.
Roughly the same. Yes, roughly the same, I think. All right. Well, sorry, Byron. You probably wanted something. I mean, we went kind of in depth on that. So, yeah. Dave Yark says the men's basketball Panther Club donation is $630 per seat. The seat itself is $570. So you have to pay $1,200 for a Pitt basketball season ticket.
I guess.
Is that the math? So, all right. So, like, you take that then. I mean, how many seats do we think they're charging $630 donation for?
I would guess I don't know, like those 3 sections in the middle, like they're always a little bit nicer, and you have the club access. I'm guessing those.
Okay. How many seats do you think are there?
I don't know, 1,000 on each side, maybe.
All right. Well, that adds up. If it's 1,000 on each side, I was like, do the math. Like, was $630 times 2,000 seats is 1.26 million. So that's actually like a decent. I thought it was going to end up being like $300,000 or something like that. But like, if that's actually, I mean, if they're getting $630 for, per seat for 2,000 seats, I mean, that's a significant chunk.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's a significant chunk that would make a big impact if you could divert it to Alliance 412. And it's a significant chunk to take out of your budget if you don't get it for the athletic department. And that's a tough decision that an athletic director has to make, right? Of like, do I divert this money to get players, or do I keep it so we can do the things athletic departments are supposed to do? And I don't know how Heather Lyke is wrestling with that. Boy, what would you have to cut if you like just ripped $1.3 million out of your budget?
I don't know. Would you like have to, like, you remember the movie Major League? Whenever they fly, they have like the airplane with like the Cleveland Indians. Like, yeah, like maybe the travel would be not so nice for the team, but they'd have better players.
I guess that would be one option. I don't know. I
don't know how athletic departments function. They should let us in behind the scenes one day.
Or even just talk to us sometimes. TRR says, are we expecting a big round of commitments at the June camp, or has NIL changed this due to money negotiations? So he's referring to all the official visits that they have in June. They usually produce a lot of commitments. I would expect it to happen again. I would expect another run of high school kids to commit. I think NIL and money and negotiations are part of high school recruiting, but I don't think they're quite at the forefront like they are with transfer portal recruiting, where, to some extent, guys don't even need to visit. They're just, going to, they're taking offers and they'll go to the highest bidder. I think high school, you're not quite getting that kind of money, and it's not quite dominated by that. I think sometimes high school kids kind of understand they're going into college for a year or two, and then they'll, entertain all the NIL stuff. But no, I don't see that changing. I think it'll be another big June official visit season with, I don't know, 6 to 10 commitments again, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of did like a quick countdown. I think we have like 30 some confirmed. I mean, obviously that list will change when we get to June, but like,
yeah,
that's a lot. It's good. I don't think it's going to look that different. And I mean, I don't think like the NIL thing has really affected recruit. I mean, looking back to last year's recruiting class, there was probably 1 or 2 guys that we kind of heard stories about that were kind of being difficult, but like for the most part, it was still like business as usual when it comes to high school recruiting.
Yeah, it probably becomes more of a factor when we actually saw it was like in December, when schools are trying to flip commitments. And so that doesn't really change anything for June unless they end up coming up within like a summer signing period. Then it could get interesting and become more of a factor. But otherwise, if they don't do that, I think it'll pretty much proceed the way it did last year. Getting a lot of commitments in June and then fighting to hold on to them, particularly in December, if 1 or 2 of your guys, schools try to poach them. OOF McGee says, if Miles Kelly or any other smaller wing committed, would Zach Austin start at the 4 or Guillermo Diaz-Graham? My thought is Austin would still start at the 3, and a guy like Kelly would come off the bench. And Guillermo would. I'm still like, not necessarily banging the drum for this, But just like keeping it out as like a very real possibility that Guillermo Diaz-Graham could be the starting 4 for this team, barring who they add in the transfer portal. Like, Pitt fans don't want it to happen, but I still think it's a very real possibility. And I would say it's more likely that Guillermo starts at the 4 than Zach Austin starts at the 4. Would you agree with that, or do you think could you see Zach stepping ahead of Guillermo at that spot?
Well, right now I have Zach Austin coming off the bench because I think they're going to do the 3-guard lineup.
Huh.
Then I think they'll do Guillermo and Corin down low. So I think, I mean, I think right now they can piece together an 8-man rotation with those 5, Cummings, Austin, and, depending, either Jorge or Papa, one of those 2. I mean, I think that's a pretty viable 8-man rotation that's going to, continue to keep you in the top half of the ACC. So I don't know how it's going to shake out, but yeah, it'll be interesting because Austin did start this whole season. So it'd be tough to like say, okay, now you're coming off the bench, but I think their best lineup is going to be whenever Dunn, Leggett, and Lowe are on the floor together.
Yeah. It's funny as you kind of list those names. I'm like, yeah, 8-man, that makes sense. And then you're like, and maybe Jorge or Papa. I'm like, wait, I see both of those guys being in the rotation here. Like, I'm going to do it again where I talk myself into them going 10 deep, at the beginning of a season. And then by the time we get to December, it's going to be down to like 8 or 7. And, it's a lot of games. It'll be 7 or 6. But I mean, realistically, the 4 guards, the twins, Corin, Austin, I mean, that's 8. You need a backup center other than just Guillermo. Papa Conte. I mean, that's 9. And if they add another person who is, another player who's even somewhat, functioning and capable of helping them, I mean, maybe this is finally the year, Jim. The Capel goes 10 deep for like an extended period of time. He's got more guard depth than he had last year. Could potentially have more center depth than he's had ever, really, if you count Corin, Conti, and Guillermo, because I think Guillermo will still play the 5 sometimes. I mean, you just kind of need some wing depth, and they could get that out of the portal, and then realistically go 10 deep. But if that doesn't happen, who gets dropped out? Like, is it Jorge who sees his minutes go down? Is it Papa Conti who sees his? I mean, we're all like projecting here, but like, who would be your guess to be the guy who starts off at the beginning of the season? They're going to go 10 deep, and then by like December, Christmas, I guess they are down to 7 or 8.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jorge needs to kind of get over the hump because like he shows flashes, and like he goes on like extended periods where it's like he's not doing anything. Like, why is he on the floor? So, I mean, I think he kind of needs to, get beyond that. And we still need to see Papa Conte play. I mean, he was a 4-star recruit, top 100 guy. So there's obviously some ability there, but he's coming off an injury. So we just don't know quite what he's going to be. But I mean, I think they have a lot of lineup combinations as is. I mean, I think you can play all 4 of those guards. I think you can play Austin and Corin and, kind of make it work. So they just kind of need to fill in the gaps. But like at this point, it's going to be tough to land like a big fish, I think, because like I think they have a lot of minutes spoken for. I mean, I think it's going to be tough to take Jalen Lowe off the floor most nights. I mean, that dude's going to play like 35 minutes a game. So like it's going to be like so you're kind of building around that. So it's going to be tough.
Those 3-guard lineups are going to be fun with Lowe, Leggett, and Dunn, and Cummings mixing in there as well. But after talking to Jeff Capel last week, like, I think Damian Dunn's going to be pretty exciting to watch. You know what I mean? He compared him a lot to Jamarius Burton, and I don't think anybody would be upset about having another Burton on the team. Ethan Andre wants to know, who's one player on football and one on basketball that you guys are high on that maybe other people aren't that high on? You have anybody that comes to mind, Jim? Other than Guillermo as the starting 4? Maybe that's mine.
I mean, I think we've talked about, like, I'm high on Brandon Cummings even as an incoming freshman. I think he's going to be one of those guys that can really step up. And I'm trying to think of a football player. I mean, I feel like I write so much about football. Like, there's not really too many secrets about how I feel about people. I mean, Braylon Lovelace is going to be an awesome football player. It might even happen this year. Like, he's going to go from just like kind of like that 5th or 6th linebacker last year to like he might be one of their best players this season.
I feel like a lot of people are high on him though. Like well, see, this is the other challenging thing, and we always talk about it. Like the world we operate in, not only do we write about it a lot, we read the message boards, and other people are like writing about these guys a ton too. You know,
it's hard to have a unique take.
Right. Like if we went down to like the local bar and somebody's like, well, who's a guy I should keep an eye out for? We might say Braylon Lovelace, and they'd be like, oh, I never heard of him. That's interesting to know. Like everybody on the message boards is all about Braylon Lovelace, you know? So who's the guy that the message boards hate that you think will be good on football?
Message
They hate a lot of people right now. It shouldn't be hard to find. I'll say I have been, I was, and I continue to be, and will continue to be, I think, higher than most on Konate Mumfield. I don't know that people necessarily hate Mumfield, but I just don't think that he's very well thought of. In you know, like I think he's just sort of generally viewed as being just okay. And I think he's a pretty solid player. I think he's actually better than solid. I don't know if he can be a legitimate number one, but I think he can make a lot of plays, and particularly in this offense, I think he can do pretty well. And so I think I've always been sort of higher on him than a lot of the fans were, and a lot of other people. So he might be one guy for me. I don't know if
he just happened to transfer to like the most chaotic 2 years of Pitt quarterbacks that like that I can remember. So
yeah, he that was his bad luck. That didn't work out so hot. I'm kind of buying in on Nikai Johnson a little bit.
That's a good one.
I just Charlie Partridge was really excited about Nikai moving inside to defensive tackle. Felt like it was like he found a home. He was where he was supposed to be, and like it all just clicked. I'm kind of high on him. I've been high on Sean Fitzsimmons for a long time. I think we both have, just because he had so much production in high school. But I don't think people think very much of Nikai Johnson, and so I'm pretty high on him. I don't know if there are any other defensive guys. I feel like everybody has largely the same opinion about the linebackers.
Yeah.
You know, nobody has any opinion about the corners. And everybody likes to say, like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, I'm higher on Donovan McMillan than most. Well, the guy had like 110 tackles last year. Everybody thinks he played pretty well.
He might be the best player. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Anderson and Brookins. I mean, we can't say we're higher than anyone else on Anderson and Brookins because we spent all spring talking those guys up. So everybody else is excited about them too. Jake Renda? No. Derek Davis. I could probably like make a case for Derek Davis.
You're buying into that?
You know what? Oddly, Rodney Hammond. Like you talk about the message boards. I feel it is not the entire board, but it's like a fairly strong portion of the message board just does not believe in Rodney Hammond. Either they think he's injury prone or that he's just not that good. Like, have you noticed this?
Yeah, but like prior to last season, he was everyone's darling. I feel like everyone's like, oh, like you got to get this kid the ball more, and like that was like whenever like people doubted is he in Canada, wherever everyone thought he was soft and didn't get a lot of yards. So I don't know. I feel like as everyone loved Rodney Hammond as a freshman, kind of as a sophomore, then like last year or whatever happened, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I think he's a good player.
I think he had a couple carries. Did he have a couple carries like against like Clemson at the end of the 2021 game? Yeah, like was that when he had the quote about like we're not scared of anybody or something like that?
Yeah, he did. He didn't touch the ball in the first half, and I think like they brought him in the fourth quarter, and he just started like mauling over the Clemson defense and this little like 5'8" freshman. So
yeah. So I guess that's true. I guess people were pretty excited about it. That's a good point. Good point. John Christovich says Dior Johnson signed with Auburn. I don't think he signed with Auburn. He's getting recruited by Auburn.
He had a Zoom with.
He had a Zoom meeting with Auburn, right? This is something we've asked and wondered about for a while, right? Of like, where would Dior end up? And I think we would always say like, could see like, I forget. There were always a couple of schools that we would mention,
like a New Mexico State, a UNLV, like just like
right. Or if he would sneak into the Power Four at like I feel like a place like Auburn. I feel like Auburn was probably one of the places like
seems right.
Yes, exactly. So
it just means more.
It does. It does. And everything else means less, which I guess that's part of the counterbalance. If something's going to mean more, then something else has to mean less. So that's just part of how it works. Never downing the talent. Does Dior Johnson, I don't even have a good over-under on this. Over-under 10.5 games played. If he goes to Auburn, over or under 10.5 games played this year.
I mean, just going off the track record, I'd say under. But I mean, the thing about him is nobody from the Pitt basketball program wanted to get rid of him. They bent over backwards to give him the second chance. I mean, it kind of came, over their heads. So I don't know if he did turn a leaf. He happened to be at Pitt the right season to be there with a bunch of senior guards who could tell him what to do. So I don't know if that got his head on straight, and I don't know if getting kicked out of school kind of reverted everything back. I don't know. I still follow him on Twitter. I still have his notifications on, so I'll follow his career very closely.
Yep. Same. We were doing the positive, negative, or neutral for the various positions at Pitt football. TRR wants to know about special teams. Positive, negative, or neutral. I would be inclined to say positive. That is an improvement. I think Ben Salas can be better than he was a year ago. I think Jacob Bernowski as a coach is an improvement over Andre Powell. The punting is still going to be the punting. They are changing long snappers, but I don't think much there. I think Powell to Bernowski is an improvement, and I think Ben Salas will be better and get more opportunities to do better. And Caleb Jungle, he can't be worse. So I don't know. I give that a net positive. What do you say about the special teams?
Yeah, I mean, if you're hiring actually one of the best special teams coordinators in the country, I mean, you would have to think it got better. I mean, I think we went down position by position. We didn't talk about the coaches.
No,
that's a big factor too.
But
we don't know about a lot.
No,
of them, I guess.
No, I have no idea. I was just about to start saying, well, this guy, that guy. I have no idea.
Is JJ Laster better than Underwood? Maybe. I don't know.
Is Lindsey Lamar better than Andre Powell? I mean,
the only one that really matters is if Cade Bell's better than Frank Smith.
That's the only thing that's important. You're absolutely right. That is the only relevant comparison here. And I mean, it's more relevant than probably any of the players, to be quite honest. As long as you don't have Dracovic level quarterback play and Bell is an improvement over Signetti, they will win at least 6 games, probably 7 and maybe 8, I would say.
Yeah.
You agree about that?
I mean, there were games on the table last year to be better than 3 and 9. I mean, you had 200 yards against West Virginia. You deserve to lose. That's
oh boy. Wow. What a disaster. Hey, and on that note, it's funny, 3-2-1 column for Friday. Got that thing about half written. It's a real downer, man. I was reading the threads, some of the threads on the message boards, and it just kind of infiltrated some of the things I was writing. And then I was reading some of it over today, and I was like, oh, this is depressing. Why are you writing about all this depressing stuff about Pitt football? But that's just, their off seasons. The off season is always, the tone is set during the season, right?
Yeah.
And this is the off season after a 3-9 year. So you're going to eat a lot of crap. That's just how it goes when you go 3-9. So, whatever the opposite of, to the victor goes the spoils, to the loser goes the spoiled food. Is that, what's the other end of that cliche? Well, Pitt's getting it right now, whatever it is. So, it's a downer, and maybe they'll get some recruits or something, and then can build some hype. But anyway, Thanks for your time tonight, Jim. We appreciate it as always. Thanks to everybody who tuned in during the live stream. We got our full hour in here. It's always a delight to do that. Appreciate everybody in the comments and questions. It's always fun to do those. We'll have the Morning Pitt tomorrow covering some of the biggest questions about Pitt football this season. So we'll carry over a lot of these depressing conversations into that one. Something to look forward to. And we'll have lots of coverage, of course, at Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you tune in. Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Like this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And thanks again. We appreciate it. Have a great rest of your night, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow morning for the Morning Pit right here on youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.